Good morning, friends, and welcome to our meeting for worship this morning. So we will begin with our announcements. If anyone has any, we do have meeting for business this Wednesday at 7 o'clock. All right. How about joys and concerns?
I have a joy. I had a healing journey out to my homeland of Wisconsin on my uncle's farm where my father built his retirement house, and lived. First of all, that landscape speaks so deeply to me. The farm landscape, just the honesty of life there. But I got to lay a plaque that I made, a ceramic plaque that I made it's been a process of 3 years of making, firing, and then traveling out. And I got to lay a plaque where we put my parents' ashes down. And my cousins delivered love, unbelievable love to me. They saw the pain that I was going through, and I learned that love isn't transactional. And I learned so much on that trip. It was a pure joy for me.
I have a concern following monthly meeting at Marshalltown today. There will be discussion of the proposed realignment of Iowa yearly meeting to an evangelical yearly meeting. It will be a yearly meeting that would favor inerrancy of the Bible. It's going to be a trying time for some of us, I believe. So we just ask for your prayers.
Is this largely because of new people moving in or of older members changing their minds on things?
Iowa Yearly Meeting has for decades talked about becoming part of the Evangelical Friends branch rather than being associated with FUM. This is not new. Uncle Lowell would tell us he was part of some of the same conversations 40 years ago. So not new. It's just that we have a superintendent who is kind of pushing it, and others who are saying it's about time. Let's go for it. And so that's the discussion that's happening. We'll see how it goes. Their repeated phrases, we want to be associated with, not be associated with Friends United meeting because of its ambiguous theology. We need a clear path ahead for our theology.
That's what got us the Richmond Declaration, right?
Yeah. That too.
I'll be a part of the same discussion in a different congregation today.
I'm going to say more about that in my message a little bit.
So my friend Jeremiah has been out on where they go to summer on a place that has no electricity, and he got bit by a tick. and I don't know, we don't know exactly what yet it might be, but they gave him some medication. He's still, um, tires easily and isn't up to snuff yet. And we're none of us kids, and I kind of worry a little bit about him. So any prayers? His at the same time, his daughter is just recovering from some surgery. She has the BRCA gene, the BRCA2 or whatever the heck it is, that bad gene. And her mother died of breast cancer pretty young. So all around, the Dickinson family could use a little hit of prayer.
Well, as always, we have much to be mindful of and thankful for. So we'll hold these things in the light as we enter the new week. Our worship leader today is Sylvia, so she'll speak out of the silence as she feels led.
From Matthew 4, verse 18. As Jesus was walking beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon called Peter and his brother Andrew. They were casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. Come, follow me, Jesus said, and I will make you fishers of men. At once they left their nets and followed him. Going on from there, he saw two other brothers, James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John. They were in a boat with their father Zebedee, preparing their nets. Jesus called them, and immediately they left the boat and their father and followed him. Then Jesus went through Galilee, teaching in the synagogues, preaching the good news of God's kingdom, and healing people of their sickness and diseases. One day he saw that great crowds had gathered, and he went up on the mountainside where he gave what my study Bible calls his inaugural address. It's called the Sermon on the Mount. It began with the Beatitudes and was his first teaching about what he expects of people in God's kingdom. You know them. They are the blessed are those who statements. 5 chapters later, and we don't know whether that was hours or days or weeks later, Jesus meets up with Matthew, who was sitting at the tax collector's booth. Follow me, he told him, and Matthew got up and followed him. Then Jesus healed some more sick people, and a blind man, and a man who couldn't talk. And he again went through the towns and villages, teaching in synagogues and preaching the good news of the kingdom. Within a short time, he had gathered 12 disciples, to whom he gave the authority to drive out evil spirits and to heal sicknesses and diseases, as the Bible says. Gave them the authority to do that. Besides the first 5, he added Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas, the one who questioned much of what Jesus did and said. He also added James, the son of Alphaeus, and Thaddeus, and Simon the Zealot, and Judas Iscariot, the one who betrayed him. Jesus didn't ask for their resumes. He didn't ask them questions or interview them. He didn't know them even well enough to know if they were equipped with the skills and talents he needed for his team. He just took them as they were. Frederick Buechner writes about what Jesus did not consider as he chose his disciples. You may know a bit about Frederick Buechner. He was an American author, a Presbyterian minister and preacher and theologian, author of 39 books, and he lived to be 96 years old. Frederick Buechner just died about 4 years ago. He is well known among Presbyterians in a similar way that Elton Trueblood is known by Quakers. My brother Roger is quite familiar with his writings, and I think has met the man several times. I would like to share from his book, Following the Call, Living the Sermon on the Mount Together, which was featured in this week's Plow online magazine. This is rather long, but it's really pretty good. Buechner writes, if we didn't already know, but were asked to guess what kind of people Jesus would pick out for special commendation, we might be tempted to guess one sort or another of spiritual heroes, men and women of impeccable credentials, morality, spirituality, humanly, and every way, in every which way. And if so, we would be wrong. It's worth noting the ones he did pick out. He did not pick out the spiritual giants, but the poor in spirit, as he called them. The ones who, spiritually speaking, have absolutely nothing to give and absolutely everything to receive. Like the prodigal son, telling his father, I am not worthy to be called thy son, only to discover for the first time discovering for the first time all he had in even having a father. Jesus did not pick out the champions of faith who can rejoice even in the midst of suffering, but the ones who mourn over their own suffering because they know that for the most part they've brought it on themselves, and over the suffering of others because it's just the way it makes them feel to be in the same room with them. Jesus did not select the strong ones, but the meek ones in the sense of the gentle ones. That is, the ones not like Casper Milquetoast, but like Charlie Chaplin, the little tramp who lets the world walk over him and yet dapper and undaunted to the end, and who somehow makes the world more human in the process. Jesus did not go looking for the ones who are righteous, but the ones who hope they will be someday, and in the meantime are well aware that the distance they still have to go is even greater than the distance they've already come. Jesus did not seek the winners of great victories over evil in the world, but the ones who, seeing it also in themselves every time they comb their hair in front of the mirror, are merciful when they find it in others, and maybe that way win the greater victory. He did not choose the totally pure, but the pure in heart, to use Jesus's phrase, the ones who may be as shop-worn and clay-footed as the next one, but have somehow kept some inner freshness and innocence intact. Jesus was not looking for the ones who have necessarily found peace in its fullness, but the ones who, just for that reason, try to bring it about wherever and however they can, peace with their neighbors and God, and peace with themselves. Jesus saved for last the last one. Let's try it again. Jesus saved for last the ones who side with heaven, even when any fool can see it's the losing side, and all you get for your pains is pain. Looking into the faces of his listeners, he speaks them directly for the first time. Blessed are you, he says. You can see them looking back at him. They're not what you called a high-class crowd. They're peasants and fisher folk for the most part, on the shabby side, not at all bright. it doesn't look as if there's a hero among them. They have their jaws set. Their brows are furrowed with concentration. They are blessed when they are worked over and cursed on his account, he tells them. It is not his hard times to come, but theirs he is concerned about, speaking out of his own meekness and mercy, the purity of his own heart. On Friday, day before yesterday, we had the privilege of hosting a group of 10 people who I would call disciples. I don't know if Jesus would call these people, but I believe he has. These are people whose faith has brought each of them into many challenging situations. These are people who are mature in their faith, yet desired to gather for a time of sharing our concerns for the movement in Iowa Yearly Meeting to pull out of Friends United meeting and join the Evangelical Friends Church organization. We came together to seek understanding from each other as we are each trying to discern what work we are called to do in and from our own places in this situation, because we believe it may bring about division within our home meetings and our yearly meetings. 4 of the 10 people who gathered in our living room are recorded Friends ministers. One now serves as a clergy counselor, but has not attended a Friends meeting in many years. One remains in his meeting 2 decades after serving as the pastor, but he is feeling lonely in his resistance against joining Evangelical Friends. And one confessed he had resisted God's call for him to be a preacher all through his career as a pastor in 4 different yearly meetings where he encountered different theologies and said none of them matched his faith. Their wives are also rich in spiritual heritage and had experienced much frustration in meetings where disagreements and judgmental attitudes and certainty of faith had made their journeys difficult at times. I couldn't help but wonder if Jesus might have considered people such as the 10 of us to be his disciples. Of course, the men who Jesus did select didn't have 2,000 years to figure out the significance of who Jesus was. Nor did they have the same storybook we have to brush up on what it would mean to follow Jesus. And the work of Jesus' disciples may sound rather impossible to do. In Matthew 10, Jesus told his disciples to heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse those who have leprosy, drive out demons. Take no money with you, take no bag for your journey, or extra tunic, or sandals, or a staff, for the worker is worth his keep. Does that sound like the work of our disciples nowadays? If those terms were metaphorical, it does. Jesus meant for his disciples to heal those whose spirits were down, raise those who were dead in spirit to life again with some forgiveness and encouragement, cleanse those whose lives are so wasted that their end is coming soon if they don't get help from a counselor or therapy, and drive out the demons of destructive practices as alcohol and drug abuse. Don't do it for the money, and don't overlook the needs around us because of our own comfort and indulgences. With our advantages, do we find it easier to believe what Jesus was teaching and preaching about that first, easier than the first 12? And do we accept that God calls us to continue the work of the disciples? A portion of scripture that touches my soul is in John chapter 17. Jesus has been talking to his disciples about the time coming when you will be scattered, each to his own home. You will leave me all alone, yet I am not alone, for my Father is with me. And then Jesus prays to God and prays for the disciples, saying, I have revealed you to those whom you gave me out of this world. They were yours, and you gave them to me, and they have obeyed your word. Now they know everything that you have given me comes from you. For I gave them the words you gave me, and they accepted them. I pray for them. I will remain in the world no longer, but they are still in the world. Holy Father, protect them. And then Jesus prays for all believers, saying, my prayer is not for them alone. I pray also for those who will believe in me through their message, that all of them may be one. Father, just as you are in me and I am in you, may they also be in us, so that the world may believe you have sent me. I in them and you in me. May they be brought to complete unity, to let the world know that you sent me and have loved them even as you have loved me. So what do you think? I have some queries to help guide our time for open worship. What do disciples do today? Is it any easier to be followers of Jesus now than it was for Peter, James, John, Thomas, and all the rest? If you had been there then, what kind of advice might you have given to Jesus about who he should select as his disciples? What does the way Jesus chose his disciples say to us about how we are chosen? Our parents, our teachers might have advised us to pick our friends wisely. What kind of people have traveled with you on your journey in God's kingdom? Could you be one of the disciples today?
Thank you, Sylvia. We'll continue now in silent worship, and we know that there are folks who have to leave us for other obligations, and today especially, we wish you well as you do that.
Thank you, Sylvia.
Thank you.
Sylvia. Thank you, Sylvia, and my heart goes out to both you and you and Dale and Dan.
Thank you, Sylvia.
I don't know why I struggle with the term all will be one. My image is that would be boring. And that may be why I'm fascinated with being a Christian. I think of the apostles. They all came towards Jesus, but they came in different directions. Peter is the church. John is what? Diversity. Matthew, probably stories. Um, Paul, certainly the journey. And then there's Thomas. I always wanted to have a book of Thomas. The doubt. All of them had to have it. I mean, even in this little group, we come to Jesus in different directions. Maybe that's the one he's speaking of, is that we get there.
Friends, if all hearts and minds are open, we can end meeting for worship.
Good to see everybody.
Have a good week.
Take care, guys.
Try to see you Wednesday.